Well, hello, folks. This is Fat Guy Flies RC coming to you from the man cave. We're going to do the complete radio setup, how you completely do it from scratch. Well, not completely scratch. The rates radio and CG setup for the FMS CESSNA 182 Hobby Zone. Again, thank you for the plane. Now, I have chose a AR620 for my receiver. Okay, so let's just go ahead and right off the bat show you a few things internally. Now I've already bound this to the receiver, but we'll go through that process as if you were doing it for the first time. Okay, now coming out of your control board down there, that you see that green control board there. Okay, you got all these wires going this way, all right, and they're all labeled. Okay, now on Spectrum, I'm going to unplug everything. Okay, and I'm going to unplug the plane itself. Okay, this is what you're going to be using. Okay, and they're all labeled. The throttle has a little yellow wire hanging off of it. That's your reverse function. We'll get to that in just a minute. And then here's the rest of what you're using: flap, aileron, elevator, and rudder. Now all I've done in my radio is set up the basic profile, but I'll show you how I did that. And I bound it to the aircraft just to make things easier for me. Now inside, don't ask me what they're to. There are two wires hanging out down here. See these two wires here? I don't know. I don't know what they're to. They don't have, I can see no function unless you're wanting to bypass this board maybe. But these two right here, I don't know. I do not know what they're to. And so I don't know. Couldn't find any instructions. But you're going to concern yourself with these plugs here. If any Spectrum receiver, the first channel is going to be as like a channel. Think of it as channel 0. Okay, that's your battery channel. Okay, that was if you ran a gas-powered plane and you had to power this receiver. That's where you'd plug that in to power the receiver. Channel 0, channel 1, channel 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Channel 1 is always throttle. That's going to come off of your ESC, and you're always going to plug it light side up. In other words, normally, well, I mean, there are receivers, but for this receiver here, check your receiver protocol. But on this receiver here, and most Spectrum receivers, the light side of the wire is going to go towards the top of the receiver. The next thing you're going to grab is aileron. Okay, I kind of make a loose-fitting little acronym. TAER. TAER. TA. So in other words, throttle, aileron, elevator, rudder. So the next one you're going to do is elevator. Okay, after aileron. Okay, and then you're going to grab rudder. Okay, and every one of these, the yellow or the white or whatever the lightest color signal is going to go towards the top of the receiver. Okay, now you don't have landing gear, but you do have this little pigtail here. All right, now what you're going to want to do is the very top, if you can see it, the very top pin right there, you're going to plug this signal. This is just a signal wire in that very top where it's going to be even across the top. And then and that's channel 5, which would normally be landing gear. And then you're going to take your flap and plug in there, and that kind of holds it and holds everything in place. So all the light color of the wires are going to be towards the top there. All right. Now, I'm going to take me some two-sided tape. I love Gorilla tape, two-sided tape. Okay. This is guaranteed to hold 15 pounds. Well, you know what? This little receiver only weighs a few ounces, so I don't have to worry about it being more than 15 pounds. I like to cut a little excess off if I can get my scissors. My scissors are not sharp at all. Okay. Off the side, because I use them for this kind of stuff all the time. Okay. I cut myself somehow. Don't know how. But then again, I'm always getting injuries, and I don't know how I get them. Okay. And then I showed you, right back there is the perfect spot to mount that receiver. You mount it right there. Press that down, nice and firm. And I've already got it bound to the receiver, so now I don't have to worry about that. Okay. Make sure all my wires are kind of tucked and out of the way, making sure I can get to the battery lead. Okay. I tuck my speed controller off to the side there. Okay, let me get it where you can see what I'm doing. Maybe. Anyways, so I got that kind of have that ESC kind of tucked in a little channel right there. That way everything's out of the way, and that way this servo, this is free to move. Okay. Let me get this battery tray installed real quick, and we'll be right back. All I'm doing, remember on the build, I'm just going to be installing this in that wood there. We'll pause for just a moment. All right, got the wood tray in there, and I've got the battery that I'm 2700 Forest I'm going to be using installed. Okay, I've already got it bound to the aircraft, and obviously since I'd have to remove this tray. I want to go ahead and bind it. Okay. And the binding process would be very simple. All you would have to do, let's go back to our radio. Okay. What you would do is you would plug everything, make sure your prop is turned off. Okay. You would press the bind button on your receiver. Okay. Let's start flashing. You would come over to your radio, and you've already named your, and you go down here, you already got your model. Okay, let's go ahead and get out of here. Okay, we'll get out of here. Okay, there's my Cessna 182. Okay, I'm going to go there. There's my sub. Already named it. Okay, and you would go down here with that flashing. You would hit bind, and you would hit yes, and then you go over here to bind, hit bind, and then it would bind to the aircraft. And then you would have communication. As you can see, I now have communication. All right, but nothing is set up right. Okay, so that's the first thing let's do is make sure all of our control surfaces are going the right direction. It's easier to look at the rear of the aircraft. Obviously, we're going to be doing flaps too. Okay, here at the rear of the aircraft, if I hit right aileron, okay, move over here. If I hit right aileron, that aileron should go up, okay? But no, it's going down. So that would make the airplane turn to the left. So it's reversed. So let's go ahead and take care of that. Okay, go to servo setup. Go past travel, go to reverse. Go to aileron. All right, now look at the aileron. Oh, look. Right aileron goes up, left aileron goes up. Okay. Now, rudder. My rudder's right. If I go right rudder, and it goes right. Okay. Oh, let me see if I can sneak around. Okay, you just have to trust me. I can see the nose gear is working correctly. Nose gear is working the right way. If I go left rudder, that front gear is facing that way. So if I go right rudder, that gear is facing that way. Okay, you just have to trust me on that. But look, I pull up the elevator, nothing's happening. Remember I said I wasn't going to hook up the elevator until we get it bound up because I want to make sure that the servo is centered. Now, the book says And we still got to make sure of direction. The book says the second hole in on the control arm of the servo. Well, I want to go there. I want the outer one though, because I want the most throw. That's just my preference. Well, those antennas lock in there pretty tight. Which side is it? Okay. All right. Here's where we're going to have our attention. The book says to hook in your servo push rod to the second hole in. Okay, well, I'm going to put it on the outside hole because I want the most deflection, and it's already preset there on the control surface. So I'm going to push it in on that outside, turn around, and look at my placement to see just where does that ball or that ball link fall. Okay, well, it's pretty close to there, so I'm going to turn it and set it on there. Okay, now holding that in place, it's a little down. Put it on there and see how that looks. So I press that on there. All right, that's going to kind of give me a little bit of up elevator. So I'm going to need to turn this in just a little bit, shortening it. Nope, more. The other way. Turn it. Actually, make it tight and go in and make it tighter. Yeah, that's right. Okay, tighter. I'll set that on there then and see if that elevator looks level. Still up just a little bit. So a little bit tighter in, a little bit more. Turn it a little bit more. And what I'm looking for, I've got it now. Look at this. Look at this right here. Okay. See that right there? I'm wanting this to be perfectly level. It's not perfectly level right now, right? But then when I've got that position just right, look at it now. See? Now it's perfectly level. So now I can press that on there. Well, maybe. Okay, I'm going to have to use a tool. Okay. Pair of needle nose pliers or an actual ball link tool is perfect for this sort of thing. Okay, I think that's it's wrong direction, but that's on there. I'm sure it's not going to come off. Because the last thing you want is to lose your elevator. That is the one, besides throttle, probably the most important control surface you've got. Okay. Yeah, that's not going to come off of there. Yeah, that's on there. Let me make sure it's on there good. Like I said, you don't want to, yeah. See, I was kind of hoping to hear a very satisfying click, but it's on there. Okay, so we need to reverse, and we're already at the reverse screen, so that works out. Okay, it's like, oh, we're going all over the place. All right, so all we're going to do is go over here to elevator and reverse it. So look at the elevator now. Up elevator, down elevator. Right aileron, left aileron. Right rudder, left rudder. Okay, well that's fine and dandy. Now, look at them flaps. When you set this model up, okay, go down here to system setup. This is where you're going to set it up, okay? Yes, yes. Okay, the model type, that's your model. I don't want to hit no, hit no. I don't want to reset it. You're going to go aircraft type. Sorry. This is where you name it. I named it FMS CESSNA 182. Okay. When you go to air, you're going to go to aircraft type. You're going to pick one wing, one aileron, and one flap. Okay. And then you go all the way down here. Hit your image. Go to standard image. And then you can go back and forth Pick ever one you want, what helps remind you. And then when you get out of here, first thing you want to do, go to throttle cut. Okay, I like H. So all you do is you come down here to the switch, you highlight it. I like H. All right. Get out of here. Now you're ready. And we've already gone through and made sure that everything's working correctly. Okay, so let's go to our flaps now. Flap system. Go ahead and highlight it. And I'm going to pick D. D is what I like for flaps. Get out of there. Go back to flaps. Oh, I didn't take it. Okay, now you have all your settings, right? Okay. Now we got to figure out which way. Put our switch all the way up, position 0. Let's move our roller and see what the flaps do. Okay, if I go negative, then flaps are going down even further. Okay, so that means I want to go positive in order to pull them all the way up. Okay, now look at this. If you look really close, see that flap is kind of hanging down a little bit, and that flap's hanging down just a little bit too. Okay, so that just means that the mechanical trim on them is off. But let's just see what we can do electronically real quick. We'll get back to the flap settings. Go back here to servo settings. Go to travel. Go down here to flap. Okay, I'm going to start moving that. Making that higher. Making that top number go up. And look, I went up to 123. Now look. Now look at them flaps. Look at them now. They're nice and level all the way across. And that way now I don't have to go on there and mechanically change them. Okay, so let's go back to our flap settings. Okay, we know that 100% positive, okay, is flaps up. So we're going to pull our switch down to the second position, which will be takeoff flaps. Okay, typically I like to pick not much. See, to me that's an awful lot of deflection. Okay, so I'm going to get back on there. I want to make that positive. And I'm going to take that up to about 50. Okay, a positive 50. Look at that there. Okay, flaps up, takeoff flaps. That's about right for takeoff flaps. You don't want much, shouldn't need much. And that's good for landing. So I'm going to leave it 100, 50, and 0%. Landing, takeoff, flaps up. Now, I'm not going to do an elevator mix because I don't know how the plane's going to fly, and I'm probably going to put that on a flight mode anyways, and that's an entirely different deal. But let's go ahead, put our speed, change that to 2, and watch that. Watch those flaps. Takeoff, landing, all the way up. All right, well, that's taken care of flaps. Let's go to rates. Now, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to fly this plane in one rate. 100% throws, 30% expo. So, I'm not going to assign it to a switch because I'm going to use the one rate. But my aileron are at 100% right now. Okay, but I want expo. So I'm going to go down here, change that to 30. Okay, go back up here to aileron, switch to elevator, go down to expo, change that to 30. I'm going to go to rudder, change that to 30. Okay, so ailerons look like that, elevator looks like that, rudder looks like that. Okay, now, so that's the basic radio setup as far as rates, direction, what have you, okay, and flap settings. I'm not going to do, I'll put a link to BD Tennessee's video on how to set up a radio to elevator to flap mix using he used an NX10 just like I do on how to do it in a flight mode where you can actually change that in flight. I'm not good enough on explaining that, doing that enough for I can explain that to you. He does a much better job, and I'm going to put a link to that video. So if you'll just follow that video along, then you'll be able to change you'll be able to take off and fly, and you'll be able to use your trims in order to get your, when you deploy landing flap and she starts to know a balloon on your dive, you'll know you've got to change your elevator settings. Well, you'll be able to do that on the fly and lock it in as you're going, instead of constantly taking off and landing and trying again and taking off and landing and trying it again. It's a flight mode. It's actually very easy to set up, but there's several steps to it, and it's just easier for him to explain. So I'll put a link to that, but I'll be using that when I do the maiden in the morning. I'll be using my flight mode to figure out my flap settings. All right, and that will be just the trim will lock in based upon whether I've got the flaps in the takeoff position or if I've got the flaps in the landing position in the flight mode. And I'll send that, just watch that video, follow along with your Spectrum radio, as long as it's a computerized Spectrum radio, and they would all work the same. All right, now let's talk about CG. Now, got the battery I'm going to be using. I'm going to have to put the prop on because that's part of the CG. I mean, that's part of it. Okay, I'm not going to tighten it down. I'm just going to put it on there enough to where the weight's there. So that's part of the CG. I got the battery, or the battery I'm going to be using, which is a 2700 4S. Okay, put the prop cone on, spinner on. Okay, so now everything's there. It's going to be for the weight of the plane. Now, CG on this plane is 55 to 65 millimeters back from the leading edge. The leading edge is the very front of the wing, 55 millimeters back. But this plane, we don't have to get a tape out and measure and mark it, because this plane comes with a great little CG indicator on the underside of the wing. If you look right there, you actually see the letters CG. If you feel the back of your wing connector and drag your finger right there, there is the CG mark. So, all I have to do, feel those CG marks, put my finger on as straight up and down with my fingers as I can get without touching any other part of the plane. And I'm looking to see, does that plane pitch forward or pitch toward or pitch backwards? Does the nose go down? Does the tail go down? But no, she looks like she's pretty darn close. So I'm happy with that CG. All right, that's 55 to 65 back from the leading edge. So that tells me that my 2700 all the way forward, it's not completely all the way forward. It's not against the motor there, but just tucked under the front of the cowl here, that is a perfect spot for that. So since there is some room, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a marker and I'm going to put a mark here at the end of the battery, make a line, make arrows, and we're right. Alright, so here's what I did. I made arrows at the back end of that battery that says 2700. So I know a 2700 going this way will make my CG perfect. So then if I had, say, a 3300 or even a 4000, I would go further back. If I have a lighter weight battery, then I'm going to go that much further forward. Okay? But no matter what, if I'm still unsure, I can always put the battery in, feel for those CG marks, and there you go. I know I'm in good shape. All right. Now, one thing we want to do, now that the prop is on, I want to show you something real quick. This is setting up that thrust reverse. Remember we said we had that yellow pigtail? All right, I'll show you how to do that. Yes, I know the prop's on. Model's not going to go anywhere. You're going to go back out of your system here. Go to System Setup. Go to Channel Assign. Okay? Now, remember gear is channel 5. Gear is where we put, is on the A channel. Gear is where we put the gear channel, channel 5, is where we put that yellow pigtail. However, I do not want to use my A switch back here for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight that, pick the switch that I want, which for me is C. Okay, I hit C. Okay, so that now will control my thrust reverse. Get back out of there. Okay, now it may or may not have it reversed. So let's find out. I'm going to stay away from the prop. My throttle cut. Now my motor is live. I'm going to give it some throttle. Okay, the wind is blowing away from the plane. So that tells me when my switch is up, that's not the way I want it. I want to pull down for brakes. Okay, so that means what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here to Servo Setup. I'm going to find, just like we did when we changed the control surfaces, when they're going the wrong direction. I'm going to go to Reverse, go to my gear channel, and reverse it. Get back out. So now, with that switch all the way up, which is the way I want it, that should give me normal, and the wind's coming behind it. Push it over to being tractor, pull down, and now it's pushing out. So that's right. Okay, so up will be normal, pulling down will be brakes, and that's what I'm used to for me. You could have left it on the A switch if you wanted to, and then however way you're comfortable with saying brakes is what, and however way you want to do it. But on all my models that have a thrust reverse, I like using the C. That's what my muscle memory is there for, and that's what I'm used to. So now I've told you how to set up your thrust reverse, how to assign it to a switch. You'll need to use thrust reversing, and to use all the features of this model, you'll need at least a 6-channel receiver. All you need. And the only thing left for us to do now is, now I'll go in there and I'll do audio events and timers and all that. I'll set my timer for 5 minutes right off the bat. And audio events is very personal, just like Expo is very personal. I like 30% Expo on almost everything. You might like 20% Expo, you might like 10% Expo. I like maximum deflection on all control surfaces. You might like it a little less than that. It's entirely up to you. But this is the basic setup for me, and this is the way I'm going to fly it. 100% throws, 30% Expo. I'm going to use a flight mode for figuring out my elevator to flat mix, but I'll be able to do that in flight. And there again, I'll give you the link to an instructional video by BE Tennessee. Does a great job, very easy to understand on how to set your flight mode. If you just have your radio, whether it's a Spectrum NX6, NX8, DX9, whatever's got a computer screen, you just follow along with him, and he'll explain to you how to do flight modes. And flight modes can be used for a whole lot of different things, not just for flaps. I'll get a link to his video in there. I'll have a link for the purchase of this plane. If you use my link, you'll be able to take $10 off the price of the airplane, which I know she's $299, but $10 is $10, and it helps my channel. Doesn't cost you anything less, and it takes you directly to the product page. And you can take $10 off the price and use that $10 towards the purchase of the battery. I'll be using a 2700 4S for the maiden. I will also be using a 2700 3S for a second flight. I will also be doing the, probably as part of the maiden, I'll do a speed test, or maybe a third video. I'll be doing the GNS analyzer and see what kind of speed we can get out of her. I'll only be doing it on, I might do it on both just because I'll have it, but tell you what kind of speed I get on 3S and 4S. And that'll be the maiden, and that'll be hopefully in the morning if the weather permits. But yeah, there you go, folks. I can't think of anything else I haven't covered. Make sure my throttle cut is off. See my elevator not working. We covered CG, we covered rates, we covered how to make sure your control surfaces are right. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. Pay attention to your connection for your elevator. Make sure that that ball link's nice and secure. If you have to, you can even take it, undo it. There's a little screw there. Take it off and put a little bit of washer in there if you wanted to. There's a myriad of different things you can do to lock that down. I think it's going to be fine. I would like to have heard a satisfying pop into place, but I didn't. But I don't think it's going to come off. I hope it doesn't. When you get done, you should have 2 wood screws and 2 machine screws. These have to do with the prop adapter. If you lose them, you take the prop off. That's what those screws there are for. You can put floats on this. I didn't buy the floats for it, but and remember, you do have suspension, but it is like see, watch how slowly it comes back. That's to help negate some of that bounce. They are kind of hard wheels. I mean, they got a little bit of give, but they are hard. So you're going to hear that, and if you're going to hear that rattle. So when she lands, you're going to hear that rattle. Not much you can do about that. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. God bless you, and don't forget, faith, family, and friends, and then FMS CESSNA from Hobby Zone. Bye bye.